When I was a kid, Mom would be constantly telling me to get off the video games, go outside, and get some exercise. While she did have a point, the next generations of moms are going to have to come up with a much better excuse. Video gaming is about to change in a huge way. Some of the new peripherals that are going to be coming out onto the market are going to change the way that you look at, interact with, and even feel video games. We're here today to talk to you about these peripherals and a game that we want to develop for them. This is a very exciting time for the video game industry, and the future looks really bright.
Hi, I'm Janet Chase. I'm in COM 218, part of Team B. We would like to introduce you to two new devices and the game we propose for those devices. The first one is Oculus Rift. It looks like a scuba mask. You put it over your eyes and you can see virtually everywhere around you in the game that you are in. It allows you to look to the left. You see what's on the left of you. You look to the right. You see what's on the right of you. You look up. You see the sky or whatever else is up there. It will even allow you to turn completely around to see what's behind you. The Omni is a device that goes with that. It's kind of like a treadmill. It allows you to move around physically as you move around within the virtual world. If you walk, your player walks with you. If you run, your player runs. If you turn around, the player turns around as well. The game we would propose for the Oculus and the Omni is America's favorite pastime, baseball. With this, you'll be able to step into the world of baseball and see the sights around you, the stadium, the crowds cheering for you. You'll be able to experience what it's like to actually hit the home run or just the single to left. You'll hear the crowds cheering and see them stand on their feet when you hit the home run. You'll actually get to run the bases. You'll be able to catch balls. You'll be able to throw the balls to get those runners out at first. You'll be able to pitch the ball as well. Before you can begin, you have to pick the stadium. We have chosen Fox's top 10 fields to put as choices for this game: Dodger Stadium, Busch's Stadium, Fenway Park, Wrigley Field, as well as some of the lesser-known stadiums. With this, the player will get to experience different levels, as the stadiums are slightly different, and they will be able to challenge themselves in each of these stadiums. The players will also need to create their characters. We have given them a list of well-known players such as Babe Ruth, Barry Bonds, Derek Jeter, Joe DiMaggio, and several others. They can also choose to create their own. If they do, they will be given a menu in which they can choose the physical characteristics of each of these characters. Then they will have to decide what position they want each of these characters to play and set up their teams. The umpires? Well, the computer gets to pick those. Another goal is to be the most valuable player. This allows you to push yourself to a higher level of exercise as you are playing the game. The rules for our game are very similar to the regular baseball regulations. You go to bat, you can swing at the pitch or choose not to if you feel like it's a ball. You can get strikes, balls, hits, and once you hit the ball, you actually can run the bases. On the field, a player can catch the balls. They can throw it to base to get the players out. A pitcher can throw different balls. Some of them may end up being foul balls, which, if the batter does not already have 2 strikes, will be counted as a strike. They can get balls, and they can get strikes. If they get 4 balls, the player gets to walk to the base. 3 strikes, the player's out. The limits for our game are determined by the stadium of choice first of all. Each stadium in the real world has its own characteristics, and those characteristics have been put into play for our game. The size of the outfield, the size of the field itself, each one is slightly different and therefore challenges the player with each game that he chooses. Limits are also set by the choice of characters. Each character has their own set of limitations based on their real-world character or by the characters that are designed by the computer and the player together. The limits are also set by whether you play a single game or choose to be in a tournament. If you're in a single game, you can play against yourself and with the computer, or you can play against one other person who is in the room. If you choose to be a part of a tournament and are online, your choice can be limitless with multiple players.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Wolper, and I'm going to continue giving information on the new baseball game for Oculus Rift. I'll be explaining two different aspects about this game. The first is to explain the different player interactions that will be needed when using the new controllers that are going to be created for this game. In the second part, I'll be going over the audience of the game, how old you should be when you're playing this game, and what skills you would need to use these controllers. When it comes to this new baseball game, we are going to come out with two new controllers. The first one is going to be similar to the Wii controller. This controller will be used for several different aspects of the game. One aspect is during batting. If you hold the controller halfway like this, then you will be bunting. If you decide to point it this way or this way, it will help lead your bunt to one side of the field or the other. If you hold the controller and swing all the way through, then that will be a normal swing and like any other baseball game. This controller will also be used in the field. If you hold the controller up like this, it will help you catch fly balls. If you hold it in the middle or down low, then you will be catching line drives or ground balls. Now, while you are also in the field, there is a button on the controller that will help you out. If the ball is a little too far away, then while you're running, press the button and hold your controller out, and you'll dive for the ball. The next controller is going to be a round, circular, ball-shaped controller, kind of like a baseball. This controller will be used for when you're pitching or while you're in the field. On this controller, there will be several different buttons. They'll be numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. By pressing these buttons, you'll be able to throw a different pitch. While it be a fastball, changeup, curveball, screwball, whatever the pitcher has, these buttons will help you go through the different pitches. You'll also be able to throw the different bases to try getting the runners out. Whether you're in the outfield or the infield, you'll use these buttons to throw the different bases. Pressing 1 and throwing will throw it to first base. 2 will throw to second base. 3 is third base. And 4, you'll throw it home. Now the final controller or platform that we are going to be using for this game is the Omni. This will allow you to really feel that you are actually in the game. No other baseball game has allowed you the aspect of actually running for the player. Whenever you need to move a player, then you'll be moving yourself. If you need to run around the bases, then you start to run on the platform. The same will be for when you're in the field. If you're trying to catch the ball, then you'll actually have to move your body to get over to the ball. This is an electronic baseball game like never before. Now for the big question. Who can actually play this game? In short, everyone. This game will be rated E. There is nothing explicit on this game, from pictures to explicit language, that you'll keep anyone away. This is the American pastime as best. The only thing you need to do is have the basic idea of how to use the controllers. If you ever played the Wii before, or any type of controller type game, then you will have the basic understanding that you need to be able to use these controllers. Also, in the game and with the controllers, there will be a manual to explain what the different buttons and what you need to do to actually use these controllers. Like I said before, this is the next generation of baseball games. Nothing out there has ever seen this before. There are new controllers that will let you feel like you're actually in the game, whether it's running, batting, throwing, catching, and there isn't much skill needed to actually use these new controllers. When this game comes out, I hope I see everyone in the stores so you can experience the new generation that is coming to your homes. Thank you.
So by now you're wondering just how this is going to be available to the public. Is it going to be available on my console, or am I going to have to upgrade my computer in order to be able to use it? Are there really any differences between console and PC gaming? Let's take a look at the two forms. There are pros and cons to using PC or console games to play your games, but due to the peripherals that we're using here, we may find that one is going to end up being a little bit better than the other. As for a console, you do have a large player base. A lot of people have the Xbox 360 or the new Xbox One or even the PlayStation 3 or the brand new PlayStation 4. So you've got people with these consoles ready to play games. And the games that are made for them are designed specifically for them. The console's controller is not a keyboard. So when you are building a game, you have to have that 14-button interface really in your mind, and you can't really go beyond that. And the games can easily have multiple people in one room playing the game, adding a social aspect to that game, unless you've got big peripherals like the Omni. Now, bad thing about consoles is that they tend to be less compatible. You have to have peripherals that are made specifically for the console. And then they have a non-upgradable hardware. Once you go out and you buy an Xbox One, that's the hardware you're going to have until the next version comes out. They're also known to overheat quite often. The Xbox 360 is probably the biggest villain in this. The red ring of death that people constantly talking about is an overheating issue. Big peripherals don't really allow for multiplayer use quite as easily, like the Omni, for example. You just have so much room in your living room, and you can't really add that just because you've got a giant thing to stand up and run around in. So the social aspect with it kind of goes down a little bit. The games are more expensive. For a game that is made for a console, it tends to be around $60 for a new release, whereas a PC tends to stay around the $50 range or so. And as much as people don't like to think so, the graphics on even the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 consoles that just came out are not comparable to PC graphics. PC are just all around better when it comes to graphics. Now, just taking a look at the PC, PCs allow for better performance. You can upgrade whatever you want to upgrade, whenever you want to upgrade it. If one part goes wrong on your Xbox, you got to go buy a whole new Xbox. If one part goes wrong on your computer, well then let's just go buy a new video card and be done with it. Peripherals are easily addable to a PC. Most of them are just plug and play. You're ready to go. For myself, for gaming, I use an Xbox 360 controller and a headset made for a PlayStation. So it's not hard to just add things to your computer and go. The games themselves tend to be cheaper, just like I said for the consoles. They're $10 cheaper at best, and better graphics. Always better graphics on the PC, because the PC is able to be upgraded when new products come out, and you don't have to wait several years for the next big PC to come out, because you can just go buy the new video card. Now, the cons for the hardware on the computer is that the hardware itself can be just a little bit more expensive as an initial purchase. A computer can cost you anywhere from $800 to $3,000 for a gaming PC. It just all depends on how much you want to put into it. Whereas, the console is just one big purchase right there for about $500 or so. And some games can take up a lot of hard drive space. I, for one, had a game that took up 30 gig of hard drive space, and I was just like, wow, that's a lot of space. And you have to wait for that to install before you can play it, whereas on a console, you can just pop the disc in, bam, you're ready to go. There's going to be some things that we're going to need in order to build this game as well. First off is an Oculus Rift and an Omni. We're not going to be able to build a game meant for the Oculus Rift and the Omni unless we have an Oculus Rift and an Omni to test it with. We're also going to need a good development team that is fluent in game building languages such as C++ and a software that is able to use C++ or other languages in order to build the game. The Oculus Rift and the Omni are going to help developers create some amazing games in the future, and I think we need to jump on that bandwagon as soon as possible. With the Oculus Rift and Omni, immersion in the game is going to be like never before, and there's going to be a huge surge of people getting into the video game market. Even the things that people wouldn't typically think a video game would be able to do, you are now going to be able to do in the public. You can teach doctors surgeries. You can help children learn by teaching them history through this. If you want to teach them about Christopher Columbus, well, let's just develop a game that puts them in the shoes of Christopher Columbus in 1492 so he can go sail the ocean blue himself. Our baseball game will be built to help the gamer feel like he or she is Babe Ruth himself and on the field making that big game-winning home run. For Janet and Michael, I'd like to thank all of you for watching, and we hope that we can count on your support in the future for our game.